In today's video, we'll be creating an inbound booking assistant from scratch. I'll guide you through the entire process, showing you how to build your own assistant that can check available time slots and book events directly into your calendar all over the phone. In my last video, we revealed the secrets behind these powerful AI voice assistants, and many of you asked for a deeper dive into the back-end logic within Make that provides these assistants with their profound functionalities. And in this video, we'll not only explore just that, but create an entire assistant from start to finish. This will give you a comprehensive understanding of how to build one for yourself. Pay close attention as today's video will be extensive and you won't want to miss out on any details. For those of you who don't know, I'm Jonas Massey, founder of Esplanade AI. We turbocharge businesses by integrating cutting-edge AI technology to streamline their operations and enhance customer satisfaction. If you're a business owner looking to implement AI voice assistants for your own business, please check out the link below and you can get in touch with myself. But without further ado, this one's a long one, so let's jump straight into it. In this video, I'll be using Vapey to create our assistants. Vapey is an intuitive platform with robust APIs for easy integration for you guys. Vapey also offers a bit of flexibility when it comes to customization in regards to these voice agents, which makes it easy to change the assistant settings when needed. Vapey also supports multiple languages and provides real-time analytics, making it easy to build, deploy, and manage an intelligent voice assistant. So if you haven't already, create an account and head over to our dashboard just up here in the top right. It'll bring you to a dashboard that looks something like this. You won't have any data if you've just created an account. And today we will be creating an assistant from scratch. So over here to the left under platform, we'll locate assistants. This is your assistant library where you can create and edit your assistants. We'll go ahead and hit create assistant. Now we have a few options here we can choose from. First, obviously we can name our assistant whatever we want, and we can start from a blank template or choose one of Vapey's templates, which will give you some already made prompts for a specific assistant. Let's just for now choose a blank template, as we'll be going through this from start to finish, and we'll create an assistant name here. Now for this assistant, we're going to be doing a reservation assistant. That'll be an inbound caller that handles any reservations someone wants to make for a restaurant. That'll be our fake company name for today, and that's fine. We'll choose a blank template and we'll create the assistant. So a few things to go over. We have a first message and our system prompt. The first step will be coming up with our system prompt that explains to our assistant what it is, what it should do, and how it should do it. Before I recorded this video, I came up with a prompt that will be used in this video, so I'll paste that in and we can go through it. I'll also put it in the description so you can copy. So quickly going through this, we've determined the assistant name so it knows what it is. We have a role here. You're a customer service assistant responsible for handling reservation inquiries for Joe's Pizza and Pasta. Your duties include making new reservations, edit existing reservations, and canceling reservations. Provide clear, accurate, and efficient service to ensure customer satisfaction. So general role on what it should be doing. And then we go into call handling guidelines. Ask the caller to specify if they want to make a new reservation, edit an existing one, or cancel a reservation. And then we have some information on how it should be making a new reservation, the necessary information it needs to collect, and just a few other things here that make it sound believable and very closely aligned to what a normal human assistant would be asking in that scenario. And I'll provide these in the description so you can have a closer read. But for now, we have a nice prompt that will just give some base functionality to this assistant. Now we have our first message. As it says, this will be the first message the assistant says. So when we are dialing in this number, this will be the first thing it says. I've got some scripts here. So for this instance, let's just go with Joe's Pizza and Pasta. This is Emily speaking. That'll do for now, and we can just publish that. Next, we can go into Transcriber. We won't be using this for this assistant, but essentially what it does is exactly what the name says. It's going to transcribe our phone call and then send some data post the phone call of what was said in the conversation. And you can choose from a few different providers here, Deepgram being the best, a few different languages, and a few different models. Now, if it's just a phone call, it's probably best to do Nova 2 phone call. So we can just do that, but like I said, we won't be using this in detail, so we won't worry about that. Next, the coolest bit is our voice configurations. Now, this will be how the assistant sounds. This is up to personal preference, and you can choose from a wide array of different voice providers, 11 Labs and Platt being the best in my opinion, and a wide array of different voices from those providers. If you want to go in and check what each voice sounds like, head over to the left-hand side here and click into Voice Library. This will be a library of the voices where you can go through and play all the different voices. You can sort by gender and accent and sort by the provider. But for now, I know what I'm going to use. I'm using Emily, an Australian accent that is by far my favorite to use. So we'll go ahead and look for Emily here. Emily, Australian female. This sets up the voice so when it's doing that text-to-speech synthesis, it's using this 11 Labs voice. We have a few options here in terms of the model, and each voice provider will be different, but typically you want to choose the best one, with V2 being probably the best, but V2.5 has now come out, and we can just test that out. We have some additional configurations that we can set up here, and the first one being background sound. Now this will be some background sound on the assistant side of things. So it'll include like distant phone calls and keyboard typing and things like that to make it sound extra realistic, but it depends on the context that you are using your assistant in. Considering we're a fake pizza and pasta restaurant, I'm actually going to enable this to office so it sounds like there's a bit of ambient noise going on in the background to really hit home on that realisticness, if that's even a word. A few more things here, punctuation boundaries. This just helps the assistant determine where it should stop and do breaks like that. It doesn't really matter in my opinion, but you can do it for things like periods, exclamation marks, questions, and things like that. You can just go ahead and add a few here if you're really concerned about this, but it doesn't matter too much. Next, we got filler injection enabled. This is just filler words inputting into the voice provider. This doesn't really change too much, and I wouldn't recommend ticking all these because it'll increase your latency. Next, we have something called back channel enabled. It'll make the assistant say natural words like yeah, and etc. But depending on the voice provider, this may be a bad idea or a good idea. It really depends, and it's a matter of just testing it out. For my specific voice here in Emily, I'm not going to be using it. But moving on, we have background denoising, and this just filters out background sound when I'm talking. A few things in terms of the voice, we got stability. Increasing the stability will make it more consistent between talking points, decreasing it, less consistent. Clarity and similarity, this is how closely it follows your script or your system prompt. Style exaggeration is the way it sort of exaggerates words and things like that. So we can turn it up a little bit. We don't want it to be highly exaggerated, and we don't want it to be fast and robotic. We can optimize streaming latency here. So the higher this is, the less latency. The higher it is, you gotta be careful that it doesn't affect these settings. So generally somewhere in the middle or lower is best. And then speaker boost, we don't really have to worry about that. And that's our voice done. We can publish that. And that's pretty much it for now in terms of what we can do on the static side of assistants. We can get into functions in a bit that'll where we can start building out our make backend logic and things like that. And then we got some advanced things where it's HIPAA compliant and audio recording, video recording, things like that. Pipeline configuration is some things to note in here. So we got silence timeout, how long to wait before the call is ended. Something natural like 10 to 20 seconds is usually good. Response delay, this is how long the assistant waits before it starts speaking. So sort of the interruption threshold, although we have it down here. We can move down to the large language model request delay. So this has something to do with the punctuation. So seconds, it's going to wait after punctuation. This one we can keep fairly low. Moving on, we have interruption threshold, the number of words the user must say before the assistant considers being interrupted. This can be like 2 to 3 is usually good. So if I'm trying to interrupt the assistant, 2 to 3 words like hey, 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 is a good number. And then the maximum duration of the call is whatever you want it to be. Messaging, we have now some cool things where we can start sending external data after the call. So we can have an endpoint here like our make webhook or something like that to send transcripts to and things like that. Client messages is what it's going to be sent to our client SDK after the call has ended. So we can send through some data like a transcript when it was hung up, and then different function calls that we utilized in the call. And then the same again for sort of server messages. We can leave a voicemail message, an end call message, or an idle message. These settings don't matter too much on our use case, but it's something to consider. Okay, we've gone through a bit of the settings here, so let's just quickly publish and why don't we test this out? So again, we are a pizza and pasta store that handles reservation inquiries. There's no functionality here to enable the assistant to get bookings and things like that, but I'll speak to it now so you get an idea of what it sounds like and why we need to add some functions here. So you can just go ahead and in testing, if you want to talk to it anytime, just go ahead and hit talk with your assistant. This is a web call and we can connect a number at a later stage, but for now, let's just click that.
Joe's Pizza and Pasta. This is Emily speaking.
Hey Emily, I would like to make a reservation for tomorrow at 9 p.m.
Sure, I'd be happy to help with that. Could you please provide the name for the reservation and the number of guests?
The name is Jonas and the number of guests are 4 people.
Thank you, Jonas. Let me confirm the details for you. I have booked your reservation for tomorrow at...
Okay, so it said it booked it, but it really didn't because we didn't add any functions that it could use to actually book an appointment. So where do we start and how do we actually put some functions into this thing to make it be able to check availability as per our calendar and then also book in an event on our calendar? So locate functions here, and we have tools here. You can make your own tools and connect it with Make or Go High Level or something like that. But right now we want to make a function. So to create a function, and specifically for this assistant, we are going to be creating a check availability function first. So we'll hit create a new function and we can name it. The name is self-explanatory for this one, so check availability. And the description is going to be check availability for the requested reservation time. So it can be something like check availability for the requested reservation time. And then we have a button here for some properties. So what this means is that when this function is called by the assistant, it'll send to our server URL down here some different properties that can be used as variables to check our availability. So to do that, we'll just add a few properties here, and the first being the requested time, which its description will be the time which the user requested to make a reservation. And then we can provide an example. So for example, tomorrow at 9 p.m. Hit save, and then we can create another one. We don't really have to create another one at this point, but to showcase, I can just create a new variable to see what I mean. So we can just do a name. So the name of the user, hit save. And then there's something called server URL, and this will be the endpoint where we're sending these properties to. And this is what we mean by an external server. So our external server is going to be Make in this scenario. Head over to Make, and in a new scenario, we're going to start building this out. So add a new module and search for Vapey. What we need to do here is you can hit show more, and we're looking for a watch function call request. So we're watching for any time a function is called on Vapey server to our server. We'll go ahead and hit that, and we'll choose a webhook or add one. We can add a webhook and call this check availability Vapey. Save, and it'll provide us with our server URL, which we will copy to our clipboard and then head back over to Vapey. And then when we're in Vapey, we are putting in the server URL, which is just the webhook URL that we just copied. We'll hit add, and now we have a new function created. To test this function, we can come down here and locate setup make, and then at the bottom here, we can send sample payload to our server URL. So as you can see here, this is our JSON construct, and we have our requested time property and our name property. So I'm gonna fill out these. We'll leave that there and just go back over to make, hit okay, and we'll just run this. And now it's listening for a function call. And back here, we can send a sample payload, test endpoint, test succeeded. Come back over here and you can see that our function call has worked with the parameters we sent over, which is requested time tomorrow at 9 p.m. and our name, which is myself. So that works all good. Let's start to build out how to actually check availability as per a calendar. Let's go ahead and create a new module. So you can hit add another module. And what we'll do here is we'll add a JSON module. If you can't see it here, hit JSON, show more again. And we're looking for transform to JSON. Our object's going to be this collection here, so the function call. And then we'll add another module, again, JSON. And then we're going to pass that JSON string from our previous module. And then we're good to go. Save that, save anyway. And then let's just send some sample payload data again. So we'll run that, head back over to Vapey, and then test our endpoint, test succeeded, and then look at that. Now we have our bundle one output, which contains our parameters that will now be used to check the actual availability. And specifically, we're only really going to be using requested time, and name was just an example to show you of what we'll do in the next scenario, which will actually be making an appointment. So next, now we need to do something that will convert this time into an ISO formatted time, so an actual date time that can be used in a module like Google Calendar. And then we can search in between a specified parameter to see whether we're free or busy, and I'll show you in a second. But to do that, we can use good old faithful OpenAI. So hit add a new module down here, and then search OpenAI if it's not already there. Hit OpenAI. We'll be looking for create a completion. Come into this, add a connection if you haven't so already. Go ahead and add your OpenAI connection. This will just be your OpenAI API key. The method is going to be create a chat completion. And for the model, we'll be using GPT-4o. It's 50% cheaper and 50% more efficient than previous models. So that's fine to use. Hit add a message because we are sending a message to the model and we're expecting a completed chat. Our role is going to be user, and the message content will be our prompt that we are providing to ChatGPT-4o. I've created a prompt already that works out a way to convert our requested time, which is tomorrow at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., sorry, and any sort of variable time that the user says. It may be next week at 8 p.m. or Wednesday at 8 p.m., but we need to convert that time into an ISO format, which you'll see in a moment. And to do that, we need to message ChatGPT in a way that it can handle that logic. And ChatGPT-4o is getting pretty good now that we can give it a complex prompt with a complex scenario to solve, and it can do it. Okay, so this is what it looks like. We are telling the assistant to capture the current time and date using the now variable. So sometimes when you ask it to Capture the current date and time. It doesn't know what date and time it is even though you'd think it should, but we can use a now variable up here in our operators. Locate the calendar and use now. Capture the current date and time now. Now pass the human readable date, which is the tomorrow at 9 p.m. from the provided JSON input, which this is in JSON. Adjust the date and time based on the past input, which we're going to add the variable here, requested time. If the input contains tomorrow, add 1 day, and a bunch of logic that will determine the output to be in ISO format. And we need it to be in the beginning of the day because we want to search within the parameters of our calendar, the start of the day to the end of the day, and then get all the busy blocks in between. So that's why we do at the start of the day, 000000. Return the result as the requested time in ISO 8601, Australian Eastern Standard Time format, which is an Australian format. You can change this to your designated country format. And then we give it some example input and example output. We tell it to only output the time and nothing else. Do not include any explanation or text, only the output, and then we'll give it again the input here. And add our max tokens first, hit OK, and we can test this to show you what I mean. So we can run that and then head back over to Vapey again, and we'll send again a sample payload data. Come back over to here and you'll see the chat completion's done. Choices, one message, or just come up here to result. And you can see it's tomorrow, which is the 5th, today's the 4th, at the beginning of that day. Now we have something that we can actually use to start querying our calendar. And to do that, we'll add another module. So you can come down here and hit add, and then search Google Calendar if it's not already there, Google Calendar. And then we're going to be finding get free busy information. Connect that over. If you don't have already a connection set up, go ahead and hit add like anything and then sign in with Google. And now we have to provide two parameters where it's searching in between. So our minimum time and the maximum time, and it's going to return the free and busy events within that time frame. So that's why we specified ChatGPT to provide that date at the beginning of the day in here, and then the maximum time, which is just going to be 24 hours after that. Now to do that, we can use again another operator using the calendar date and time section, and we can come down here to the add hours function. Now we're adding hours to the minimum time. So come back to our modules. So we're adding hours to this 11. So find that, adding hours to the beginning of the day, and how many hours? 24 hours. And that's going to return 24 hours after this date, which will be a day block in our calendar. And then it's going to return all the free and busy periods within the day. Final thing, we need to add which calendar it's going to be. So I've got a test calendar, which looks something like this. And we're assuming our restaurant is open Thursday to Sunday. And I put in some mock fully booked periods here so you can see it's actually checking, but you need to specify which calendar to use. So we can add an item down here, and then we can sort by our calendar ID or from a list, which you would turn off mapping there. I'm using the test calendar, and now we can hit OK. Before we can send this back to Vapey, we need to actually go through another chat completion to take these properties and return them in a string or text that says, I am free in these periods and I'm busy in these periods. And I'll run this just to show you what I mean. So I'll run that and I'll again send some sample payload data. And now we've returned our calendar. So I'll show you. Our input was our minimum time on the 6th of July. Oh, sorry, minimum time was the 5th of July at 12 a.m. and then a day after, which is the 6th. And then our output is calendar free busy in between those periods. And you can see our busy slots there. So we have two busy times tomorrow, which is in between 5 and 6 p.m. and then 9 and 10 p.m. So we actually have to capture these and create a text structure so we can send back into Vapey to say whether they're we have free or busy, so it can actually propose different times. And to do that, we'll again go down to OpenAI and create a chat completion. This one's gonna be structured in a different way. And remember, I'm gonna provide the prompts for both these OpenAI modules in the description below, so you don't have to type any of this up yourself. But again, it's gonna be a GPT-4o model, and then the message, the role is gonna be a user, and then I'll paste in the content here in a sec. It looks something like this. Take this output, which the output being our last module, and it's going to be our busy slots for our calendar. So take this output and pass it to identify busy and free times within the day from 5 p.m. till 12 a.m. This should be 10 p.m. And the reason I'm doing this is because we're saying our store closes at 10, or should I say 11. Our store is going to close at 11 p.m. and it's going to open at 5 p.m. So we should only be searching in between that time. Determine the busy times using the start and end date. So what I mean by that is the start of the busy block and the end of the busy block. So start and end date time values for any free 1 hour block within this period that does not overlap with the busy time listed as free. Assume the day starts at 5 p.m. and ends at, we're saying 11 p.m. Give it some example input and an example output. So this is what I'm saying it should look like. Busy between this time and that time, and free at that time. Output the response in text and not include any calculations or explanations in the output. Cool. Again, specify your max tokens. Hit OK, and we should be good to go. Our final thing we need to do here for this function until it's done is create a new VP module. So come down here, hit that, and now we need to respond to this function call. Hit that and connect that up, and our result is going to be the output of our last chat module. So now we've listened to a function call and we've sent in some properties to our make scenario, and then we've done some logic in our make scenario to check that availability. Now we need to send back our output or our logic determined back into VP so it can say to the user, hey, I'm busy, hey, I'm free, blah, blah, blah. But that's pretty much it. Go ahead and save that, and we'll just clean that up a little bit, and we'll quickly just test this to show you guys. So again, we can just run once, and without actually calling the assistant each time, we'll just keep sending payload data. Let's see if the output's what we are looking for. So we said tomorrow at 9 p.m. and the output has given us busy between 5 and 6 p.m. and 9 and 10 p.m., which as per my calendar, 6 to 5, 9 till 10, that's working okay. And this function's working correctly. So now we can just hit save. Before we test it, we need to just turn it on so immediately as data arrives, so this function can operate in the background. And then let's get over to VP and just talk with it. Hey Emily, I am looking to make a reservation tomorrow at 9 p.m. please.
Sure, I'd be happy to help with that. Could you please provide the name for the reservation and the number of guests?
The name is Jonas and it'll be 4 people.
Great, thank you. To confirm, you would like to make a reservation for tomorrow at 9 p.m. for 4 guests under the name Jonas. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Give me a moment. It appears that we are fully booked at 9 p.m. tomorrow.
Okay, cool. That worked. It checked our calendar and realized that we are fully booked from 9 till 10. I ended it early. It would have suggested some other times, but we weren't able to book because we don't have a booking function. So right now, what we can do is create a new function finally. And this will be our key function that makes these bookings in our calendar. So similar to what we did before, go ahead and create a new function. And this function is going to be booking, can be that description, and we want to send over some properties too, including that requested time. So again, the time the user requested to make the reservation, for example, tomorrow at 9 p.m. And then we're going to store a few more things. This is where the name matters. So we can have a name here, the user's name for the reservation. And then we can do guests, the amount of guests for the reservation. And in theory, you would want to also pass a property like phone number, and then we can set like, and then we can send SMSs for like a booking confirmation. But we're actually not asking for that at the moment in our prompt, and we'll have to go ahead and change that in a second. But we can hit save, and then again, we are going to add a new webhook URL. So head back over to Make, and we'll create another scenario to handle this booking function. Okay, we have a new scenario. So same again, we are going to look for the Vapey module. And then we are going to do the same. So watching a function call request. And then we're gonna add a new hook, and this is gonna be called booking appointment, or booking, just booking. Vapey is good enough. You can name it whatever you want, doesn't matter. Save, and then we're gonna copy that address to clipboard, hit OK. And then we'll come back in Vapey, enter our server URL, and then hit add, and make sure to hit add or things won't work. And then cool, we've got our new function set up here. And again, just go down to setup make to send these payload to our URL. And look at that, we'll just specify some things here. So requested time, again, we'll do tomorrow at 9 p.m. Name Jonas, guests 4 people, and then we can provide just a number here. That's all ready. I'm just going to go over to the make scenario, and then we'll run this, and then we'll just send a little sample payload over there. Cool, and like we had before, we have our parameters here that we can now use to actually create that booking, which is the main sort of core functionality here. So it'll be similar to what we just did. Again, we'll need a JSON module here, so transform to JSON. Our object is going to be a function call collection, and then again creating a new module similar to what we did before, exactly the same actually. Pass that JSON string, so we can now collect those variables. We won't run it just yet. We'll get straight into the next part of what we have to do here, which is pretty much just creating a booking. But first, we still have a variable that needs to be changed into ISO format, and again, it's going to be that requested time variable. So we'll create a new chat completion, and we can use the same prompt we just did, only that we won't ask the model to change it to the beginning of the day. We actually want that exact time in ISO format, so that's the only difference in this. But it's going to be the same regardless for everything else. Again, the role is going to be a user, and the message content, I'm just going to go ahead and paste that and then change it. So I pasted it in. We can use the now variable. We just have to change these because they don't relate. We'll just delete this bit so it doesn't change it to the beginning of the day, and then we'll change the output to be exactly that correct date. So here it's not the beginning of the day anymore, it's 7:30 p.m. Okay, and only output the time, nothing else. Hit OK. Again, do your max tokens, it can be whatever, usually about 250 is fine. And now let's actually just run this to make sure it's all working good. And then like before, we're just sending some payload data. But we got output here, and it's 9 p.m, so that works fine anyway, which is pretty good. Now what we have to do is actually create another Google Calendar module, and this is going to be adding our event into it, and this will run, so the check availability function runs first, and if that's all good, then it'll run this. So add another module, hit add another module, such as Google Calendar. And then for this one, it's going to be create an event, obviously. And again, set up your connections if you haven't so already. And then our type of event creation is going to be in detail. And we're going to specify in the calendar. So for this one, I'm using a test calendar. And the event name, now we can use some of these variables that we passed to create a unique event name. So we can call it something like reservation. And then we can do our name for guests, and then contact, something like phone number. Beautiful. It's not an all-day event, and the start date is going to be our result from before. So content, and then the end date, we won't specify, but we know the duration is 1. And we can actually just do it in the proper format, which will be that. All we have to do now is hit a new Vapey module, and we're gonna respond to a function call. New event created under booking name. Jonas, under booking name Jonas, and then thanks for calling. See you then. That'll just return a result to our Vapey, and that's pretty much it. We've created 2 functions that serve as our check availability and booking function. Now, all we have to do is call up this thing. I'm gonna change the prompting so we include the phone number, and let's test it out. Let's see what happens. So we'll hit OK and save that, and then we're going to turn that on, and then we'll come back to our other one here and make sure that's on. That's good. I'm just gonna name this, so booking, I'll leave it as that. Now we can come back to Vapey. Our 2 functions are good to go here. I'm just gonna come back into the model and ask to collect some information. Gather the necessary name for the booking, date, time, number of guests, and phone number. We need to collect that because it's one of the properties that we're sending to our make server. Looks good to go. Let's go ahead and talk with Joe's Pizza receptionist and try and book in an appointment. So as per our calendar, we know 5 to 6 is busy. So I'm gonna call up and say, can I book for 5 p.m? It should say no. And then it should suggest a different time. And then we're gonna try and book in somewhere in between here. So let's see if this works.
Joe's Pizza and Pasta. This is Emily speaking.
Hey Emily, I would like to make a booking for tomorrow at 5 p.m. if possible.
I'd be happy to help with that. May I have your name, the number of guests, and your phone number, please?
Yeah, no worries. So the name is Jonas. It'll be 4 people, and my phone number is 04123 456 78.
This'll just take a sec. It looks like we are fully booked at 5 p.m. tomorrow. However, we do have availability between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. and after 10 p.m. Would you like to choose a different time within these slots?
Yeah, let's do 7 p.m. please.
This'll just take a sec. Your reservation is confirmed for tomorrow at 7 p.m. for 4 guests under the name Jonas. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
That's all, thank you. Cool, so that worked. Just listening to it. Let's jump over to the calendar and see if it actually booked it in. And voila, look at that. Reservation, Jonas for 4, and our contact, and for some reason our contact number was not collected. So that's something we're gonna have to check out now. Okay, so I just ran another call, and for some reason that worked fine. So maybe it was just an anomaly. But there we go, we have some functionality there, very good. So if we want to connect this now to a phone number, we can do that, and we can start calling it on our phone. All we're gonna have to do here is head over to the left, and under phone numbers, what you'll do is add or import. Now you can add your phone number, which will cost $2 a month if you've already have a Twilio phone number, or you can import one from Twilio and something like that. What you need to do in Twilio is sign up for an account. You have a $15 trial account that you can just test on a number, and you'll be provided a couple of things. So your account SID, your auth token, and your own unique Twilio phone number. And you'll copy these account details over in Vapey. When you hit import under Twilio, make sure it's the right country phone number, and then you'll import those details into here, and then you'll have a Twilio number to choose from up here. And then for inbound ones, so the one we're doing now, we can assign that number to a specific caller. This one's sort of live in a demo at the moment, so I won't change that. But for example, the one we created, Joe's Pizza Reception, you would hit that and now your assistant is sitting on that number. Now you can call it an actual number on your phone and call this assistant as you wish, and that's it. So I hope that was in depth enough to give you a comprehensive understanding of how to build an assistant for yourself. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have any more questions regarding AI voice assistants on Vapey, be sure to drop a comment below and I'll answer you or create another video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to stay ahead of the AI automation curve. Drop a thumbs up and a comment if you like the video. And if you're a business owner looking to implement some technology like this in your business, again, click the link below and you can get in touch with myself. But thanks guys for watching. It's been real. Hopefully this was informative and I'll catch you next week.